I set down my wine glass when Marcus cleared his throat. 30 years of marriage taught me that particular sound meant business. "This evening will be special," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. The gesture always preceded his most ambitious schemes. "I want you to be the main lot." I laughed. Had to be one of his elaborate jokes. Marcus organized exclusive events for people who measured wealth in millions, not thousands. Private art auctions, wine tastings, presentations, where handshake deals moved mountains. I'd attended dozens, always the dutiful wife in designer dresses, smiling at the right moments. Very funny. I reached for my glass again. His hand covered mine. "I'm serious, Jasmine." The weight of his words settled between us like smoke. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse, the city sprawled below in its evening glitter. I'd watched Marcus build his empire from this same spot, seen him orchestrate deals that would make lesser men tremble. "You can't be serious." The setup crew arrives at 6. Lighting, staging, the works. He moved to his desk, pulled out a leather portfolio. 24 confirmed guests, all pre-screened, all interested. My throat went dry. Interested in what exactly? "One evening with you, no limits, winner takes all." The room tilted slightly. I gripped the arm of my chair, silk cushions suddenly feeling like sandpaper against my palms. "Marcus, this is insane. This is business." His voice carried that same calm authority he used with clients. "You've been my greatest asset for 3 decades. Time to let others appreciate your value." A small device on his desk caught the lamplight. Some kind of recording equipment, though I couldn't be sure. Marcus collected gadgets like other men collected ties. "I won't do it." He smiled, the expression I'd fallen in love with at 31. "You will, because deep down, you're curious. You want to know what it feels like to be desired by someone who isn't obligated to want you." The words hit like ice water. Obligated. Was that what we'd become? "The guests start arriving at 8, he continued. "Cocktails, then the main event at 9:30. I stood on unsteady legs. "And if I refuse?" "You won't." He returned to his papers, dismissing me with the confidence of a man who'd never been wrong about human nature. I walked to the bedroom, my reflection catching in the hallway mirror. 61 years old, still elegant, still turning heads at charity galas. But when had I become something to be appraised and sold? The evening stretched ahead like a challenge I couldn't quite name. The staging crew transformed our living room into something from a fever dream. Professional lights on stands, a small platform where our coffee table used to sit, chairs arranged in a semicircle like a theater. I stood in our bedroom staring at the black dress Marcus had laid out. Silk, form-fitting, elegant enough for any of his usual events. Except tonight, I was the merchandise. Voices drifted from the main room. Deep laughter, the clink of crystal. His guests were arriving. 5 minutes, Marcus called through the door. My hands shook as I fastened the pearl necklace he'd given me for our 20th anniversary. The woman in the mirror looked composed, regal even. Inside, I was drowning. The main room fell silent when I entered. 24 men in expensive suits, aged between 40 and 70, turned to watch me cross the marble floor. I recognized several faces. A senator, 2 tech moguls, Marcus's lawyer, men who could buy and sell cities. Marcus stood beside the platform, microphone in hand like some twisted game show host. "Gentlemen, as promised, the evening's main attraction." He guided me to the platform's center, his hand firm on my elbow. The lights were hot against my skin, making everything beyond their glare seem shadowy and unreal. One evening, Marcus announced, his voice carrying that auctioneer's cadence I'd heard him use at charity events. Complete discretion guaranteed, no limits on the winner's time. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I caught fragments. Exquisite, rare opportunity. Marcus outdid himself. Bidding starts at $50,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $50,000 for one night with me. 60, called a voice from the shadows. 75. 100. The numbers climbed with casual indifference, as if they were bidding on a painting or vintage wine. I felt my cheeks burn, but whether from shame or something else, I couldn't tell. A man near the back raised his hand. 150. I focused on him. Silver hair, maybe 65, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Something about his posture suggested military bearing, controlled power held in check. 200, someone else countered. The silver-haired man smiled slightly. 500,000. Silence stretched like a held breath. Even Marcus looked surprised. Going once, Marcus said, his voice thick with satisfaction. Going twice? No one else spoke. Sold to Mr. Kane. The man stepped forward, and I saw his eyes clearly for the first time. Gray, intelligent, studying me with neither lust nor pity, but something more complex. A pleasure, he said, extending his hand. I'm Rowan. I took his hand, felt the calluses that spoke of work, despite his obvious wealth. Jasmine? I know, he said softly. Shall we? Rowan led me through the penthouse's guest wing to a room I'd forgotten existed. Marcus had it prepared for occasions like this. Neutral territory for delicate negotiations. A sitting area, wet bar, bedroom beyond frosted glass doors. He moved to the bar, poured 2 glasses of scotch, without asking my preference. You drink whiskey? Tonight I do. He handed me the glass, our fingers brushing. His touch was warm, steady. This isn't what you expected when you woke up this morning. I laughed, a sound edged with hysteria. That's an understatement. Marcus is a complicated man. I've known him 15 years, done business with him on 3 continents. Rowan settled into the leather chair across from me. But this surprises even me. You could have walked away. So could you. The observation hung between us. He was right, of course. I could have refused, packed a bag, driven to my sister's house in Connecticut. Instead, I'd put on the black dress and stepped onto that platform. Why didn't you? He asked. I sipped the scotch, felt it burn down my throat. Curiosity, maybe, or spite. I wanted to see how far he'd actually go. And now you know. Now I know. I studied his face, the lines around his eyes that spoke of laughter and hard decisions. Why did you bid so high? Because you're worth more than they were offering. The simple statement hit harder than any flowery compliment could have. I set down my glass, moved to the window. The city lights blurred through tears I refused to shed. He's watching, isn't he? I asked. Rowan joined me at the window. Probably. Does that bother you? Does it bother you? I turned to face him. This close, I could smell his cologne, see the silver threading through his dark hair. It should, but it doesn't. No, I whispered. It doesn't. His hand touched my cheek, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't felt fall. You're a remarkable woman, Jasmine. Not because you're beautiful, though you are, because you're here, facing this impossible situation with grace. I don't feel graceful. Trust me on this one. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a hotel key card. The Plaza, Suite 1, 847. If you want to leave, really leave, use this. I'll make sure you get there safely. I took the card, felt its smooth plastic edges. An escape route. Freedom, if I wanted it. Or, I asked. Or we see what happens when two adults make a choice that's entirely their own. The key card felt like a lifeline, and a temptation rolled into one. Behind us, the frosted glass doors waited, promising privacy and whatever consequences came with it. Marcus will never forgive me, I said. Will you forgive yourself if you don't? I set the key card on the bar and looked at Rowan. The choice crystallized in that moment, sharp and irreversible. I've been someone's wife for 30 years, I said. Someone's ornament, someone's asset. Tonight, I want to be someone's choice. You already are. He moved closer, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. Are you sure? Instead of answering, I reached up and loosened his tie. Silk whispered against my fingers as I pulled it free, let it fall to the marble floor. His hands found my waist, thumbs tracing the silk of my dress. Jasmine. Don't talk, I whispered. Just don't talk. What followed belonged to shadows and whispered breath, to hands that knew how to worship instead of possess. Rowan moved like a man who understood that true luxury lay in patience, in savoring each moment as if it were his last. The bedroom beyond the frosted doors became our sanctuary. City lights painted patterns on the walls, while we discovered each other with the desperate tenderness of people who knew this was borrowed time. He traced the line of my collarbone with his lips, murmured words in a voice rough with want. I responded with touches that spoke of decades of suppressed desire, of a woman finally claiming her own pleasure. Time became fluid. Minutes or hours passed, I couldn't tell which. We moved together in rhythm old as the world, finding in each other what we'd both been missing. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets that smelled of expensive cologne and broken rules. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder while I listened to his heartbeat, slow. No regrets? He asked. I thought of Marcus, probably watching from his study, seeing everything through whatever surveillance he'd arranged. The thought should have filled me with shame. Instead, I felt only a strange sense of completion. None, I said, and meant it. Good. He pressed a kiss to my hair. Because this was never about him, you know. This was about you choosing to live. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt liberated. Let him watch. Let him see what happened when he tried to auction off a woman's soul. He's recording this, I told Rowan. I know. Doesn't that bother you? Should it? I considered the question, running my fingers through his silver hair. No, I decided. Let him have his show. Rowan's arms tightened around me. You're magnificent. For the first time in years, I believed it. Dawn crept through the windows like an unwelcome guest. I dressed slowly, aware of Rowan watching from the bed, aware of the small red light still blinking in its corner. This doesn't have to end here, he said. I paused in fastening my necklace. Doesn't it? I meant what I said about the hotel room, about leaving. The offer hung between us, tempting as forbidden fruit. A different life, a different choice. I could walk away from 30 years of marriage, from the gilded cage I'd helped build around myself. And then what? We pretend this was the beginning of something instead of the end? Why not? I turned to face him, This man who'd shown me what it felt like to be desired rather than owned. Because we're both too old for fairy tales. He smiled, but I saw the disappointment in his eyes. Perhaps. I moved to the bar, poured myself one last glass of scotch. Liquid courage for what came next. Will I see you again, he asked. Probably not. Jasmine? This was perfect, I interrupted. Don't ruin it by trying to make it more than it was. He dressed in silence after that, movements efficient and controlled. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, you were worth every penny. I know, I said, and kissed him goodbye. After he left, I stood alone in the room where I'd betrayed my husband and found myself. The recording device continued its silent vigil, red light blinking like a mechanical heartbeat. I walked over and looked directly into its lens. Did you get what you wanted? I asked the empty air. Marcus's voice came from a hidden speaker, tinged with something I couldn't quite identify. Come to the study. I found him behind his mahogany desk, laptop open, watching footage I knew showed my night with Rowan. His face revealed nothing. Quite a performance, he said without looking up. Is that what this was about? A performance? Among other things, he closed the laptop, finally met my eyes. How do you feel? The question caught me off guard. How do I feel? Guilty? Ashamed? Liberated? I considered lying, maintaining some pretense of remorse. Instead, I told the truth. Alive. Something flickered across his features, satisfaction maybe, or vindication. Good. Good? Sit down, Jasmine. Let me explain. I remained standing, arms crossed. Explain what? How you sold your wife to the highest bidder? Marcus leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I never sold you. I gave you a choice. Some choice. Stand on a platform while men bid on me like livestock. You could have said no, could have walked away. His voice carried that same calm authority, but underneath I heard something else. Uncertainty, maybe. But you didn't. So this was some kind of test? Call it an awakening. He stood, moved to the window where I'd stood so many times, watching the city pulse with life while I withered in luxury. 30 years, Jasmine. 30 years you've been the perfect wife. Dutiful, elegant, never questioning, never wanting anything I couldn't provide. And that was wrong. It was killing you and me. He turned to face me, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Pain. When did we stop being lovers and become business partners? When did you stop looking at me like I mattered? The questions hit like physical blows. Because he was right, wasn't he? We'd built a beautiful prison together, furnished it with success and social standing and mutual respect. But passion? Desire? Those had died so gradually I'd barely noticed their absence. So you decided to, what, shock me back to life? I decided to give you permission to want something, even if it wasn't me. By watching me betray you. By watching you choose yourself for once. I sank into the chair across from his desk, suddenly exhausted. You're insane. Maybe, but I'm also right. He moved to his safe, pulled out a thick envelope. Rowan's check. $500,000. I won't take money for... It's not for you. It's for us. Couples therapy, if you're willing. Or a divorce settlement, if you're not. The words hung in the air like a challenge. 30 years of marriage reduced to 2 options, both terrifying in their own way. What do you want? I asked. I want my wife back, not the ornament, not the asset. The woman who used to laugh at my jokes and argue with my ideas and look at me like I hung the moon. He set the envelope on the desk between us. But I want her to choose to come back. And if she doesn't, then I'll know I waited too long to ask. I stared at the envelope, at the man I'd married, at the life we'd built together. The auction had been his gamble, his desperate attempt to shake us both awake. Whether it worked or not depended on what happened next. Therapy, I said finally. Relief flooded his features. Therapy. But not because you paid for it, because we both need to remember who we used to be. Agreed. I stood, moved toward the door, then paused. Marcus? Yes? Next time you want to spice up our marriage, try flowers first. His laughter followed me down the hall, rich and warm and familiar. It sounded like hope.